Boris Johnson is not considering resigning. And meanwhile, his opponents not only criticize the Partygate scandal itself, but also the Prime Minister's handling of it. In Great Britain, the government around Boris Johnson is in a deep crisis. Police are investigating illegal celebrations by British government circles during lockdown. And the British Prime Minister himself is sometimes apologetic, sometimes ignorant, but above all, one thing, combative and a fracking liar. In view of the allegations against his government and himself, Johnson is not even thinking of resigning. However, not only the parties during the lockdown could be his downfall, but above all, well, it could be his very own idea of truth. Let's put it that way for the moment. The allegations against British government circles in the Partygate weigh heavily, and parties are said to have taken place again and again during the lockdown at number 10 Downing Street. The British Prime Minister is also the focus of criticism. Boris Johnson himself is, as I said, still combative and rules out his resignation, and the opposition in Great Britain in particular is demanding this in no uncertain terms. Labour MP Richard Bergen was particularly clear and probably summed up the opinion of many Britons. When questioned in Parliament, he addressed Boris Johnson with the words, "For God's sake, resign." And not to forget David Davis. For the sake of God, go. Johnson himself says, "I don't deny that a lot of people want me out of the way for all sorts of reasons." Well, yeah, but nevertheless, he wants to remain in government responsibility. At the House of Commons session, he declared, "We, and I in particular, get on with the work." Yeah, have you ever started? However, the British head of government attempted a liberation by abolishing almost all corona measures in England. And Scotland Yard is now also concerned with obvious violations of the corona rules in British government circles. Metropolitan Police Chief Cressida Dick said on Tuesday an investigation would be launched into unauthorized gatherings during the lockdown. But I'm slowly thinking about if Boris Johnson hasn't started that whole thing for what happened after. For British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, the already high pressure was increasing, but because Partygate could be fatal for him. But recently, reports of corona parties surrounding the Prime Minister had increased more and more. But now the police are stopping a bit of that. Some Tory party colleagues are parading in absurdities in an attempt to defend the British Prime Minister in Partygate. Conor Burns, Minister of Northern Ireland and old Johnson confidant, stands out in particular. Most recently, reports of a party with 30 guests to mark his own birthday had troubled Boris Johnson. He is said to have received a Union Jack cake. This plays an important role in Burns' defense. "Ambushed with a cake" is the wording. Loosely translated, he says that the Prime Minister was knowing nothing. Well, could be a surprise party, but still, you are not allowed to. But not all party colleagues are still behind the head of government. He's threatened with a vote of no confidence from his own ranks. In Great Britain, Johnson's misconduct in a case of Islamophobia among the Tories had recently caused a sensation, and shortly afterwards, the Prime Minister ordered investigations, although he didn't beforehand when he knew about this. It seems Johnson is currently given an unlucky picture in everything he's doing. The Partygate is an unprecedented scandal by the British government, and the allegations against Boris Johnson apply above all to his handling of the allegations. The renowned British daily The Guardian analyzes that should Johnson's stay in office soon be numbered, that would only be due to his knowingly tolerating the corona parties at 10 Downing Street, but also to his lies about them. In fact, Boris Johnson isn't always so, let's say careful with the truth. After the first reports of corona parties, the British Prime Minister said the corona rules had been fully followed in number 10. Elsewhere, he insisted that he had been repeatedly assured that there were no parties. Against the background of reports of Johnson's complicity and even participation in some of the events, this is hardly believable. But if you do believe, I have some great work meeting t-shirts. Have a look on my merch shelf, please. Boris Johnson's Brexit campaign has already revealed similar patterns in the British Prime Minister's understanding of truth. Because in the run-up to Brexit, the now British Prime Minister already revealed how he deals with the truth. In 2016, his party mobilized, arguing that Britain had to pay the EU £350 million every week. Johnson was happy to use this stage and later had to admit it was only £160 million. Also, in the Partygate, he does not want to have known anything, but there are quite some indications. Boris Johnson has been counted on, and the trust of many former supporters has been broken. The Prime Minister was fired from the Times in 1988 after coming up with quotes. He made them up. There's a proverb that says, "One who lies once will not be believed." And Johnson appears to have lied more than once. The British Prime Minister got away with it for a long time, but now he may have gone too far. And this week could be crucial in British politics, like the last one and the penultimate one. Finally, today when I'm filming this, Sue Gray is expected to release her investigative report into the Partygate scandal, the affair surrounding irregular gatherings at British Prime Minister Johnson's official residence at 10 Downing Street during the corona lockdowns. But since I started, I haven't heard about it. But whether there's anything in the publication at all is increasingly doubtful. Because after Gray found out that some incidents were so serious that she had to call the police, the London police took over the investigation and gave Gray a muzzle. According to the police on Friday, she should only provide minimal information on the events that are being investigated in this report, so that potential witnesses cannot read in detail what is already known before being questioned by the police. And they do know a lot, obviously. On November 30th, the British tabloid Daily Mirror brought the first complaints about alleged parties at 10 Downing Street during the social contact restrictions caused by the pandemic. Boris Johnson attended a well-attended farewell party for an employee in November 2020, during the second lockdown. In December 2020, 40 to 50 members of 10 Downing Street's top team held a Christmas party at a time when no one was allowed to do so, and later people were left to spend Christmas alone. And the newspaper listed an unnamed source as calling the celebration a COVID nightmare. A third party is said to have been held on the day Dominic Cummings, Johnson's former chief advisor, left his post on November 27th in 2020. Carrie Johnson, Boris Johnson's wife, is a party addict, and the Prime Minister is looking away, the paper wrote at the time. A spokesman for Carrie Johnson immediately admitted that she was throwing a party at her home, but said the rules were followed. Well, the rule were you are not allowed to have a party. Boris Johnson also assured Parliament that the regulations had been complied with. But since that first revelation, new ones have followed regularly. It is clear that Dominic Cummings, the former Brexit strategist who blamed Carrie Johnson's intrigue for his dismissal in November 2020 and has been out for revenge ever since, is partly behind this. Cummings repeatedly referred to information and data from parties, while at the same time accusing Johnson's wife of over-influencing political decisions. Other Brexiteers think so too, scolding the Prime Minister via neo-socialist, green fanatic, pro-woke groups. The irony is that Cummings was the first to cause a scandal for breaking lockdown rules. On May 22nd in 2020, he made the headlines for breaking the rules in his car for driving more than 400 kilometers with his family from London to his parents' house in Durham at the end of March during the first lockdown, believing they had COVID-19. On April 12th in 2020, he drove from there to Barnard Castle, 50 kilometers away, in what he later stated to test his eyes before driving back to London the next day. Cummings' antics while Boris Johnson was intermittently in hospital with COVID-19 led for the first time to accusations that 10 Downing Street applies different rules to itself than to the general public. At that time, the Prime Minister still supported his chief advisor. After he lost his job 6 months later, he didn't take revenge, on the contrary. On December 7th in 2021, Allegra Stratton, Johnson's newly appointed publicist and a personal friend of Carrie Johnson, tearfully resigned after joking in a video clip at a press conference drill on December 22nd, 2020, about Christmas parties that weren't Christmas parties they were just cheese and wine. Johnson was playing the shocked in the House of Commons, I have to say. This behavior makes me sick and upset, but I repeat, I've been reassured over and over again that the rules have not been broken. That he doesn't burst out in laughter when he's saying stuff like that is a miracle. Johnson ordered an investigation led by senior cabinet official Simon Case. And Case resigned a week later because, as he confessed, he was at a Christmas party on December 17th. The inquiry has been handed over to 10 Downing Street's former chief ethics officer Sue Gray, who has developed a reputation as a dry executor of entrusted tasks. A photo of Boris and Carrie Johnson and others at a garden party on May 15th in 2020 was then leaked to UK media on December 20th. Johnson said the photo showed people at work talking about work. I have to remind you of my t-shirts again there. In the new year 2020, the affair, now known as Partygate, entered its next round. The TV channel ITV, where the retired Allegra Stratton had worked for years as news chief, reported on January 10th about a party on May 20th in 2020, at which Johnson is said to have been present. Due to the nice weather, his chief secretary Martin Reynolds had emailed an invitation to the garden at 10 Downing Street. Bring your own booze, he said. According to the corona rules, people in England were only allowed to meet one person from another household, even outdoors at this time. Johnson apologized in Parliament and reiterated his argument that he mistook it for a working meeting, t-shirt. After all, the garden at 10 Downing Street was part of his office. He was only there briefly to thank employees, he said. In retrospect, I should have cancelled the meeting. It was no meeting, it was a party. Cummings in turn claimed he pointed out that the meeting was illegal, although it was just before the news of his own Durham escapade. Ironically, the Conservative Daily Telegraph, Boris Johnson's house newspaper, continued to shoot the Partygate even further. They unveiled two parties on the night of April 16th, the day before the funeral of the late Queen consort Prince Philip. There were two boozy parties into the morning hours with a suitcase full of alcohol from a nearby supermarket, while the day after the Queen sat alone in the Windsor Chapel at the funeral service, which was reduced to a minimum level due to the contact rules. And Johnson himself has an alibi for this one party. He was at the Chequers country estate, but soon the public learned about other parties between Carrie Johnson and a friend and a birthday party for Boris Johnson with cake on June 19th in 2020. Overall, the media between late November and late January uncovered 16 separate incidents between May 15th in 2020 and April 16th in 2021. Not all were at 10 Downing Street, some were at other government buildings. But can a prime minister who's responsible for something like this still be held? Scottish Conservative leader Douglas Ross was the first to dare openly to demand that Johnson has to go. On January 19th, Conservative MP Christian Wakeford defected to Labour from the ranks of Tory MPs newly elected in 2019 from former Labour constituencies. On the same day, the former Conservative Brexit Minister David Davis called on Johnson to resign in Parliament with an old quote: "You have been here too long for all the good that you have done. In the name of God, go." And Johnson's days seemed numbered. According to the rules of the Conservatives, there is a vote of no confidence against the party leader if 15% of the parliamentary group request it. Currently, that would be 54 MPs. If he loses it, he's automatically out of office. There has been much speculation over the past 2 weeks as to whether the magic number 54 has already been reached. Various MPs reported massive pressure from the parliamentary group leadership not to submit a motion of no confidence. Wakeford, for example, claimed he had been threatened with cancelling the construction of a new school in his constituency if he spoke out against Johnson. Nevertheless, the dissatisfaction within the group did not seem big enough. Some said Wakeford's move to Labour had raised some spirits. Should we really call for snap elections now? But it should continue to escalate. On January 25th, a day after revelations surrounding the Prime Minister's birthday party, London Police Chief Cressida Dick announced a police investigation into rule breaking at 10 Downing Street and Whitehall during the pandemic. There is evidence that those involved in the meetings knew or should have known that what they were doing was breaking the law, she said. This made Partygate relevant under criminal law. Johnson's defense is also important. If he deliberately lied to the House of Commons as Prime Minister, his resignation is absolutely expected, although he did that for years now, so nothing new. It was on this point that Labour opposition leader Keir Starmer confronted the Prime Minister at the PMQs on January 26th. The release of Sue Gray's investigative report was expected hourly, but when I'm filming it's still not there. But during PMQs, the group's applause for the Prime Minister was much stronger than before. And the Gray report was a long time coming. It will be legally examined, it said. On Friday, the police then planted their second bombshell. The report should only deal minimally with events that the police are investigating. The pledge made by the Prime Minister at the urging of the opposition to publish the Gray report in its entirety and unchanged is thus no longer valid. The police have forbidden it. This has sparked a legal political row. Are the police acting politically since they report to Home Secretary Priti Patel, who wants to protect Johnson? Or are arguments like that of Kirsty Brimelow relevant, the Vice President of the Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers? She says that the biggest problem for those allegedly responsible for illegal parties is less the violation of the corona rules, which is punishable by fines, than the disregard of official regulations, which is punished much more severely. In any case, the political end for Boris Johnson that many had been expecting just a few days ago is now a long way off. Johnson may not even be in the country when the report is published, as he embarks on a trip to Eastern Europe to exchange views with NATO allies. And most recently, with the help of the Ukraine crisis, he has portrayed himself in the style of Winston Churchill, whom he admired, the true liberator of Europe. And a scandal that has been spreading for 2 months seems to be melting away just as it threatened to engulf the Prime Minister. And so this still seems to be a never-ending story, and it seems that they really do have a Teflon Prime Minister. I'll see you in my next video. Bis gleich.